Okay, folks, so there's kind of a rule that is if you don't have any results or nothing to run on, you 100% run on fear mongering. And that is Joe Biden, who will be, I promise you, he will be back in St. Croix, back in the U.S. Virgin Islands. He'll be on the coast somewhere, I guess, up in the Northeast, on a beach, relaxing. He'll be at his home. He'll be anywhere during this election season anywhere but at the White House. He probably will spend very little time there. He probably has only spent very little time. And I've read that I think he's taken more naps than most presidents, except probably like somebody like, I don't know. Maybe he's it. He's the top. I think he's taken the most naps of any president. So let's start with that. Biden's Magical Misery Tour. So this is going to be a public appearance, apparently. So that means there's going to be 5 paid people. They're going to pay a couple of people off the street, like you would do it like a survey or something like that, and or a focus group. Pay some random people to show up, give them some money and some treats, and they'll show up at his doom and gloom speech, which he's going to give down in South Carolina, I think. So let's take a look at this. Biden's Magical Misery Tour. You know what makes voters eager to get to the polls? Talking to them about national trauma and using tragic events to bolster your flagging presidential campaign. And yes, that's the plan, because that's all they got. And who's caused most of the national trauma and deconstructionism? These guys have. So that's all they got. They haven't actually done anything. Build Back Better doesn't mean anything. It's the complete opposite. Deconstruct More is what that bill should be called. Biden returns to South Carolina next week to visit Mother Emanuel, where a white gunman massacred black parishioners, as he seeks to present in the starkest possible terms an election he argues could determine the fate of American democracy. So I can't wait to see the AI-generated memes that come of this. And I wonder, will he have a red background, that kind of like doom and gloom, here comes Big Brother background that works so effectively to up his poll numbers, not because Trump is in the lead in almost every swing state right now. So it didn't work. Everything they're doing is backfiring. Washington AP, ugh, but they'll give us a few little facts, just enough to fill us in, but make it softball. President Joe Biden is starting the campaign year by evoking the Revolutionary War, of course, to mark the 3rd anniversary of the deadly insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, and visiting the South Carolina church where white gunmen massacred black parishioners, seeking to present in the starkest possible terms an election he argues could determine the fate of American democracy. Sure, whenever you hear it's for democracy, we must save democracy from Trump, we must save democracy. When they say democracy, they mean their own pocketbooks. This has nothing to do with democracy. Remember this, folks. Democracy is their trigger word. That is their buzzword to make you go, oh, my freedoms. No, your freedoms are being taken away as you sit there. By who? Joe Biden and the globalists who have an open southern border that is deliberately open to change the demographic. Okay? This is all deliberately planned, folks, to deconstruct our national structure and introduce a one world government. Joe Biden is hell-bent on doing that. Whether he's on amphetamines or benzos at night napping, who knows? But that's what he's doing. So when you hear, our democracy is at stake, no, it's the cabal who's worried about their money, their investments, and their share of the world. That's what they don't want taken away. So don't fall into this bullshit. Besides, no such thing exists. It is a constitutional republic. Please read some of Thomas Jefferson's writings about this. I would highly recommend, because he talks about this. And the democracy has absolutely zip to do with it. So stop falling into that trap, period. On Saturday, Biden will travel to near Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. Oh, please don't desecrate Valley Forge with your presence, with your nasty presence. This is like having Ted Bundy show up at your gravesite. Like, get away. Get away. You are an abomination. We'll travel to near Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, where George Washington and the Continental Army would have kicked his ass. But anyway, I digress. No, they spent a bleak winter nearly 250 years ago. And a little tidbit here, the winter after was even colder. It was pretty bitter. The Revolutionary War was actually mostly bitterness. It was a lot of just suffering from cold. There was tons of that. There, he'll decry former President Donald Trump for the riot by a mob of his supporters. It wasn't a riot, and it was a mob of, I would say, principally FBI agents who overran the Capitol in an attempt to overturn the 2020 presidential election. If it really was a riot to overturn the 2020 presidential election, how come nobody brought a gun? Then that doesn't make sense. Like, if it's an insurrection, you'd probably want to bring a gun. You don't just show up with your padded Carhartt jackets and a couple of Trump MAGA hats. Okay, so yeah, that's been debunked. 2 days later, the president will visit Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston. Okay, ad nauseum. Biden's kicking off 2024 by delving into some of the country's darkest moments. How much you want to bet this is probably one of his, like, the last 2 or 3 speeches that he'll do, and then he'll go hide in his basement while the election is rigged. Kicking off by delving into some of the country's darkest moments rather than an upbeat affirmation of his record is meant to clarify for voters what his team sees as the stakes of November's election. Yeah, they're trying to give, I know what they're trying to present. They're trying to present like they'll make everything red and dark behind him, and there'll be doom and gloom, and he'll pound on that podium. And it will be dark times, because they want us to feel that fear of, can you visualize the future? This is what it will be like. So they're trying to give us a visual. And that's what they tried to do last time he did this, where he had the red background and stuff. They're trying to say, this is your future. 1984, Big Brother. Well, actually, it is if Biden stays in office and the deep state gets its way. It is, because these people are the ones backing Joe Biden. These are the people who have for decades been responsible for numerous assassinations, coups, drug cartels. These people support all this stuff. So don't let them fool you. Oh, yes, the classic politician visiting the site. Oh, here's the GIF, whatever it's called. The classic politician visiting a site of tragedy to score political points move. How original, and let's all pretend like this is some kind of profound and meaningful gesture rather than just a calculated PR stunt. And it goes on. Anyway, that's all. It is a PR stunt, which of course it is. And it will backfire big time. Yes, it will. As we've seen, almost every stinking single one of these things has backfired, including the narrative for January 6th. People don't care, because most people are getting a clue. They don't have to believe it all, but they're getting a clue. They're like, can we just get on to fixing things and running this country? I think the number one thing most people are worried about, including many traditional liberals, is the southern border. Okay? So nobody cares. So this is much like Carter's malaise. We're in a malaise speech in 1980 when he tried to help his 1980 campaign, which was disastrous. And Carter, yes, he was a one-term president for a reason back then, because his economy stunk and it sucked. And but this time, though, they're going to try harder. See, with Carter, they just kind of gave up. Reagan was too popular, and they weren't willing to go all the way. With this, they're willing to go all the way. So they're going to pull out all the stops. Since 9/11, you know these guys are going to pull out all the stops. Lots of terrorists have been let through in the border, and there's probably some cells sitting around waiting for their marching orders coming from the intelligence departments to go and wreak havoc and do something disastrous so that we can call in an emergency order and he can extend his presidency for the next couple of years. You know, one of those type things. That's my scenario. That's my little conspiracy thing. And he's getting trouble from all sides. The way Biden is trying to nakedly exploit violence against black people for his political benefit while sending more money to cops so they can kill more black people than were killed under Trump, and sending money to blow the intestines out of children in Palestine is grotesque. Okay. I agree with some of that. I disagree with a little bit of it, but I totally get it though. Like, it's kind of a thing. So really a good strategy, Team Biden. Well done. AP, do better. Deadly insurrection. Quijapo says, you are pushing an agenda as if it was the Hunger Games, which essentially we are there. The Hunger Games, I would say, is one of the best books. Honestly, that first book nailed it to a T, the near future, because we're here. And that and Idiocracy, too. You are pushing the agenda as if it was the Hunger Games 2024 election. Biden will start the year at sites of national trauma. Of course he will. May the odds be ever in your favor. President Biden will start the year at sites of national trauma to warn about dire stakes of the 2024 election. And the media, of course, is having a field day with this. Yes, when you have no policies or results to run on, you have to run on fear-mongering. Remember, we have inflation. We have a completely open southern border. That's terrible. We've had 8 million illegal immigrants and terrorists come in, and cartels come into the United States freely without passports, not just being let in, being flown around at our expense, being bussed around at our expense, being given phones and like $2,000 to $5,000 stipends at our expense. Okay. And no doubt the UN has sent many people in too that are clandestine, who will probably become activated as UN troops when an emergency arises. And we will be prisoners of our own country. But this, I don't think it'll happen exactly the way they think it will either. I think in spite of the doom and gloom people have, I think things will happen where Americans have it in them to change things. I really believe that. I believe we've just been super lazy asses for a long time. And I include myself in that. He can't point to anything good in his administration, so fear-mongering it is. Oh, please. Evoking fear is what tyrants with the likes of 1939 dictator, German dictator do. Leaders lead into better times. Old Joe doesn't have any better times to show, hence the fear-mongering. Yeah, and the amphetamines too, man. He's going to have to be pumped so full of amphetamines. I don't know if he'll just like dissolve suddenly into thin air or spontaneously combust. I don't know. I'm saying I'm concerned and I'm worried. Okay, I am. I'm concerned. I'm so concerned about his welfare. I love you, Joe. So we just want an honest election. That's it. Notice how no one on the left is calling for an honest election. I wonder why. They're destroying democracy in order to save it. They're destroying a constitutional republic in order to save it. National trauma, like buildings destroyed during Antifa and BLM riots. Oh, but we can't talk about that. Okay. No. Those were mostly peaceful, not trauma, because reasons. Don't ask questions. Please go to East Palestine, Ohio. The people there are very frustrated and feel you have let them down and forgotten them. That was the whole point. They were forgotten on purpose. They wanted to make a statement. We just don't care. And Biden puts on his shit-eating grin because he says, I know I'm going to be elected because I know they're going to cheat and I don't have to do a dang thing. And what are you going to do about it? So, oh, hey, a site of trauma this administration has all but ignored. East Palestine, Ohio. Yep, completely. Biden won't be setting foot in East Palestine, Ohio anytime soon, will he? As mentioned above, leaders lead. They give voters a sense of optimism for the future, a sense of hope. Even Obama, for his many, many faults, ran on hope and change. Yep, even Obama, huge deep state construct like him, even he said hope and change. But folks, the deep state has given up. They've given up on even hiding this stuff. They don't even give them acting lessons anymore. They just say, screw it. Just tell them that you hate them. Just tell the population of the United States, you're the president. Just tell them you hate them because we have nothing to lose now. And so we're all in on this now. Biden is running on division and fear, of course, sowing hatred and animosity among the voters and telling them our country will be ruined if we don't vote the way he wants us to. That is not a winning message. That's the message of a desperate, decrepit candidate. I couldn't say it any better than that. So thanks so much for that, and I appreciate you watching, folks. And please leave any comments below, and please subscribe. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.